Windjammers 2 was initially released on the 11th of August 2021 and came to Game Pass on January 20th, 2022. It is the sequel to the 1994 Neo Geo game Windjammers and is some serious radical fun. For more gnarly reviews, make sure you're subscribed. Now, let's grab our frisbees, put on some funky shades and hit the beach. It's time to figure out if Windjammers 2 is worth your time. Remember when games were just pure fun? Windjammers 2 does. The game does one thing and it does it well. This is Ultimate Frisbee. At their core, the controls feel solid. You can toss, lob and smack back the frisbee, and there are some extra elements thrown in to add some solid depth to the game. Lobbing the frisbee creates a target, and if you stand under this, you can charge up for a charged shot. Each playable character, of which there are 10, has their own charged and special moves, as well as a preference of either speed or power. Speed is how fast you move, power is how fast you throw the frisbee. I much preferred using the speedier characters over the more powerful ones, as movement is paramount in this game. There's a solid variety in each stage, and each one provides a different play experience. Some are wider, some are thinner, some have these barriers that affect the trajectory of the frisbee, and in one of the levels, these move with impact. I wasn't the biggest fan of this element as it made the matches a bit too crazy, but it's all in good fun. Then there is the casino level, where the frisbee is a giant casino chip with a point total written on it. This is just some solid, random fun. Each arena also has different areas for certain point scoring, and it creates a nice distinction between each one before you even get to how cool the game looks. There is a solid gameplay variety here. My favourite mode was the arcade mode, which challenges you with winning consecutive matches against AI. There's also some bonus stages thrown in. If that's not your cup of tea, then there is Versus mode, which allows you to tweak matches to your liking and play against either AI or your friends. If you're mental, you can also play online against players that are most certainly better than you. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a single online match during my review period. In-match gameplay is fluid and most importantly fun. Once you get into a groove, there is nothing like it. Matches have a fantastic pace to them and each catch and throw feels extremely satisfying. Getting down to the wire is nice and tense and controls feel fluid. They're not perfect though. Sometimes the frisbee would be launched somewhere I didn't intend, but these issues were few and far between. The depth here is great, but how it is taught is not. You are given a quick slideshow of the controls and then left to figure out the rest yourself. I'm not a big fan of this. Each character you face has their own moves to learn, and trying to learn everything in such a fast environment kinda sucks. Once the game clicks, it's great, but it doesn't do the best job of getting the player to that point. The arcade controls are also their own worst enemies at times. The biggest offender in my experience is that the throw and slide buttons are forced to be the same, regardless of mapping. This led to a lot of scenarios wherein I would think I had the frisbee in my hand, only to dive out of the way right before it hit the ground. Splitting up controls would be the easy fix here. An extra spot to remap the dive button would have gone a long way in improving my experience. Overall, the gameplay of Windjammers 2 is fluid, fun, and decently tense when it comes down to the wire. Each match has a new variety with the mix of different arenas and characters, and it all comes together to form a solid arcade time. However, the game doesn't do the work to get you familiar with the mechanics, and there are some control decisions which really hurt the pace of the game. We're giving Windjammers 2 a 4 out of 5 for its gameplay offering. Windjammers 2 is arcade style yanked straight into modern times, and it looks glorious. Let's start at the start. Even the menus have solid art direction. High quality arcade style backgrounds and animations get you straight into the mood for some classic arcade style fun. This is backed up by some solid pumpy music. The stage select for arcade mode is wonderfully stylized, and even the regular versus stage select keeps it simple and effective. The gameplay is where this art direction really shines though. It has everything. Massive verse screens to introduce the match? Check. Clear scoring information shown to the player in a thematic way? Check. Dynamic character animations? Check all the way through. Characters have bouncy idle animations, fluid match animations, and great victory or defeat animations. The gameplay art direction choices also do a solid job of giving everything a distinct feel, whilst still allowing the player to see everything that they need to. The frisbee has some solid normal animations for throws and lobs, but when it smacks into the side of the arena, you really feel it, and when a player performs a power shot, you couldn't miss it with your eyes closed. The sound design backing these animations is also great. Sound effects are short and punchy and convey a great feeling of motion and power. Information is given to the players simply. After every score, the match score is shown and then you're right back in. The developers know that the gameplay is fast, and the art direction exists to service that. Overall, it is totally tubular. I cannot fault it. And as such, Windjammers scores a 5 out of 5 for some fantastic art direction. My favourite type of video game narrative choice. Perfect for the gameplay, almost non-existent in reality. The story here is that you are a competitor in the Windjammer World Championship, and you must win. It's as arcade of a narrative as you can get, and it works. It simply serves the gameplay perfectly. We've come to this scenario before with games like Minecraft and PUBG. The narrative choice in service of the gameplay is perfect, but on an objective scale, it's almost absent. In the name of consistency, Windjammers 2 gets a 3 out of 5 for its narrative offering. Overall, you are getting a solid package here. There is an online mode where you can play against other players. There's also some decent stat tracking here. Arcade mode is the meat here, allowing you to gauntlet your way through a series of matchups for a high score. Finally, there's versus mode, which lets you tweak match settings to your liking. All of these modes have 10 distinct characters to choose from and can be played on 10 distinct arenas. If you have a friend over, you can toss them a controller and play together on the same screen. The package is polished. I encountered no bugs during my playtime. I unfortunately couldn't test online matchmaking though, as I simply couldn't find a match to play. Wrapping up this package are some great settings. There are sliders for both music and effects volume. Controls can be remapped and are separate for each connected controller. There is also a reset to default button for each controller. Good stuff. Finally, there are online options. You have a toggle for showing ping and a slider for input delay. You can also enable or disable crossplay. These menus do have that weird thing where there's arrows for either direction for an option, but you can only go one way. There is no need for subtitles as there is no voice acting in the game. All of the text is nice and big and easy to read, but an option to simplify the score text at the start of each match would have been nice. It's a bit much with everything happening on screen. There aren't a lot of options here, but it is definitely a case of quality over quantity. I'm really impressed. This is a nice varied package with some solid tweaks. If I had one wish, it would be to add some customization options. Additional costumes, frisbees and filters would have gone a long way. Windjammers 2 gets a 5 out of 5 for its solid technical offering. Windjammers 2 does a lot to score some solid points on our commitment scale. Hard drive footprint is minuscule at 691 megabytes. Each match lasts around 5 minutes, and it is very easy to fit in a quick one or play for hours if you're not careful. Arcade mode exists to fulfill longer play sessions. Time invested is rewarded, as this is a game with a solid skill gap. I was getting wrecked by my arcade opponents to start off, but I quickly learnt what I was doing and it felt good. There is no real completion here. The closest thing is beating the arcade mode with every character, but this is a pure time killer game and should only be played for fun. The game knows this and keeps each chunk of play nice and quick. Windjammers 2 can easily be fit into your game rotation and asks almost nothing of your hard drive. It's really impressive and scores a 5 out of 5 on our commitment scale. This package took me completely by surprise. It was so much fun with so much charm. The tension of clutching a win feels great, and I'm honestly excited to play more when I get some spare time. Windjammers 2 is a solid arcade time. Poppy graphics, speedy music, and punchy gameplay fold up into a package that is just pure fun. And at the end of the day, isn't that what games are all about?